Thank you so much for staying with us here on Politics Today on Channels Television. Where else can you be but here, where we're talking about the issues that affect you, especially when your leaders are taking those actions. You need to know exactly what they are doing, and that's why we're taking it very importantly and talking about them. Go ahead and talk to us on Twitter. I'll send an email to us. The Twitter handle is at CTV Politics, and the hashtag there is hashtag Politics Today, and let's know what you're talking about. If you're sending an email, it's politicstoday@channelstv.com, where we've been talking about the 2016 budget and the controversies trailing it. We've been talking with the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Honorable Abdulrazak Namdas. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let me bring into this conversation an economist and a policy analyst, Mr. Bismarck Ruwan is our in-house expert talking to us on this issue. Of course, tell me, because before I allow Mr. Bismarck to weigh in on this matter, if you look at line-by-line analysis of some of the budget proposal as presented, one would think, if you say it's a budget of change, are you also surprised, Honorable Namdas, that what was budgeted, for example, for the office of the president or the presidency is way higher than what we have seen perhaps in the last year or two or so?
Yeah, I think you are right. The budget actually increased from 6 billion to about 18 billion. I agree it has increased, but there were justification for those increase. For example, this year about 12 billion was for the capital, which was stated, and part of, and then for the medical center, I think about 3.something billion is set up to be expended. But the explanation we were giving is that this clinic, for example, in the State House, first it was a mere clinic. Now it was later upgraded to a medical center, where not only those in the State House that are being looked at, even people outside the State House are allowed to come in, and in fact they admit medical students. So there's reasons for some of this increase in the capital expenditure. And also, for example, in order to reduce medical tourism, that was why this thing was brought up. But of course, there are reasons for that. I think once projects are done and is very fair and is in the interest of the nation, we will look at it appropriately, and the committees, the relevant committees will look at it and see how this will be passed.
All right. Just let me allow Mr. Bismarck to weigh in this matter now. You're an economist and you make sense of figures. They matter to you. In a country where we are talking about stringent ways of spending, we do not have enough to spend because our mainstay is not really giving us as much as we expect. The cables, lightings in billions, and the issues of renovating the guest house, giving it a facelift. Hospital or a clinic in the presidency. What do you think about some of these figures that are coming from the budget, for example, and the controversies trailing them?
Good evening, sir. I think first and foremost we need to focus on the big items and not the small matters of detail. And a budget is an estimate of expenditure and revenue. It's also a tool of economic management. So if we must talk about the budget at this time, we must be talking about the fundamental assumptions. What is the benchmark price? What is the exchange rate? What is the production target? And how much is the deficit going to be? And how is the deficit going to be funded? Those are the fundamental issues which are critical to the debate about the budget. Then it goes down to the matter of detail, estimates whether whether some numbers are there, whether some projects were added, or whether they were padded. There's no pure budget document. What you need to understand is that Nigerians and the parliamentarians must understand the difference between what is important and what is urgent. For 5 months last year, we are in transition. We just got a cabinet in November. There was a supplementary budget. There's no time to be wasted in, playing around with a budget document. This is a time to approve those things that you're comfortable with. The things that you're not comfortable with, throw them back to the ministries to go and do whatever they have to do. But we cannot afford to wait. This is 6th week in the year, and we lost most of last year. So we've got to get going. Money is stranded within the TSA and all those other places. That money has to be spent. The budget has to be spent. Contracts have to be awarded. People have to start. You have to stimulate this economy into growth. We cannot be, splitting hairs over whether there was East and US. And people are using the word issues interchangeably with discrepancies. If there are discrepancies, resolve the discrepancies. Those are not fundamental issues to the budget.
Mr. Bismarck, tell me, do you think that some of the figures there, some of the proposals are frivolous, especially at a time as this when we have very lean purse?
I agree with you that some of the details of what to be spent on could be frivolous, but when you have faced with an economic slowdown, you focus on the big issues. The debate at this point should be, is $38 a reasonable and realistic benchmark price? 1. 2, is it possible that we can produce 2.2 million barrels of oil a day when our quota is 1.7 and when our actual production is 1.8? Fundamentally, that is almost a 20% deviation from the estimate. Is the deficit going to be 2.2 trillion naira when in fact the price of oil has dropped down and our revenues have dropped by 30%? And if so, how are we going to fill the gap? Are we going to borrow? And if we are going to, we said we're going to borrow 1.8 trillion when in fact we may have to borrow almost 2.3 trillion. Where is the shortfall going to come from? These are the things that we should be talking about. But if we want to waste our time talking about how much was spent on poultry and how much was spent on eggs and how much was spent on sellotape, then we should feel free. But this country has to become serious and deal with items of budget as very serious.
All right.
Without any disrespect for the parliamentarians, and they must do their job to ensure that the figures add up. The budget committees are going to look at those things and streamline those things and throw the things that don't add up back to the ministries.
All right, just for a moment. You talked about timing, Mr. Bismarck. Let me quickly allow Honorable Namdas to weigh in terms of the timing. Time is of the essence. Your members, some of your colleagues have said that you cannot meet the deadline set February 25th. As time is run, we are running out of time. When do you think that this scrutiny from the committee level will be over and we are able to have this bill pass into law?
I think timing is not much an issue because I want people to appreciate that already we've amended the appropriation of 2015. The capital expenditure will run up to 31st of March. So even if this budget was passed, is passed on the 25th of February, it will not take effect until 1st of April. So I think we still have time on our issue on our hands, and we are going to work on that very well. And by tomorrow or on Friday, this session with MDAs will end, and then committees will start to meet with appropriation committee and see how this thing will be worked. It will work at that level. But because the capital expenditure contracts must be given, as the other guest said, but it was in view of that as a responsible parliament, we've decided that this thing must be amended and then be extended to 31st of March. So even if this thing is approved on the 25th, it cannot work until 1st of April. And it is in view of that this is. I think we are conscious of that, and the both houses will work to achieve a very realistic date, and that will work for Nigeria.
All right, Mr. Bismarck, quickly, somewhat your final comments on this, because with one of the controversies that we have seen, the issue of the padding of the budget, the issue of we are finding budget mafians and what they could how they will be dealt with. Give me a sense of the timing and in the past and now, what would be a good time for this budget compared to the last budget that we have seen and this issue of padding or so?
No, padding or whatever you may call it, I don't think that's the relevant issue. The issue is the timing and making sure that the substantial and significant parts of the budget are debated and passed. And if there are problems, we throw them back. I listened to the other speaker talking about the fact that the budget will take effect on April 1. But to reduce the uncertainty, if I know that the amount budgeted for the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is now 30 billion. The people who are going to work on it can begin to mobilize in anticipation of that so that the Nigerian public begins to see the impact of it well in advance, and there's no uncertainty as to whether that project has been approved in the budget, one, two, as to the amount. And it'd be great that we approve these things well in advance. And for the first time, if they do that, that will provide a lot of comfort and confidence to the business environment. And this is one of the things that is lacking at this point in time. So I think that it's kudos to the National Assembly if they can do it and finish this in time.
All right.
Budget gridlocks are not unique to Nigeria. It happens all over the world.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bismarck. Well, quickly, Honorable Namdas, tell us, Nigerians are expecting eyes on you and your colleagues if you will not fail us at this time of the day, because time is of the essence. So on a final note, tell us the expectations that we should be looking forward to in the coming days.
Yes, I want to say that Nigeria should be patient with us. This is the 8th Assembly, House of Representatives, and I said we are going to do things differently, and we are in tune with the change mantra of the executive, and we are also conscious of the fact that there are issues, but because we are also part of this country, and because we also represent people, we will work very hard to ensure that some of these issues are really dealt with. By the grace of God, Nigerians will get a very good document.
Thank you so much, Honorable Abdulrazak Namdas. Of course, we'll get you back to talk to us more on this, and for everyone who have joined us. Mr. Bismarck Rwani, many thanks to you for talking to us. It's always a pleasure having you. Many thanks for everyone who has kept faith with us on the program, the daily edition of your political program here on the nation's news leader, Channels Television. My name is Sean Akimaloy on behalf of the team. Bye for now.